I continue with my massive review of the greatest show ever, at least in my opinion, HBO's Rome. After about a year and a half passed since I published the last part of this review, so without any further ado, let's continue with the last scene we got to, and it's Season 1, Episode 2, How Pullo Brought Down the Republic. Here we get to a nice little scene where Cicero and Pompey conspire while attending a gladiatorial match. The first major thing I like about this scene is once again the level of realism they apply, meaning the small, shitty arena which most arenas in the Republic would have resembled at that time. Because the typical Hollywood cliche nowadays is that gladiators fought in giant buildings like the Colosseum, which is bullshit, especially when it comes to the first century BC. Arenas were usually like the one we see here. Now, I cannot comment on the gladiators themselves, meaning their dress, armor, and fighting tactics. As much as I'm fascinated by ancient Rome, I don't really care about the military slash fighting slash combat element of it all, and I've never delved into it. I have read stuff about the different types of gladiators, their weapons and training processes and whatever. That's about it, and I don't even remember that. So even if the gladiators in the scene are historically inaccurate in any way, which I highly doubt they are, I don't really care. Doesn't ruin anything for me. Pompey, of course, tries to get Cicero on his side, and he eventually does, because the basic threat is that if Cicero does not stand against Caesar, Pompey will just leave the city with all his armies and become nothing less than a second Caesar, coming in to take control of the city. Again, the political exposition in this scene annoys me just a tiny bit, but I guess it's necessary because real history is anything but simple. By the way, I heard somewhere, I think it was on History Buffs, that the DVD of the show has been cut to 10 episodes instead of the original 12, and they cut out the political exposition because the BBC said that people in the UK do not need so much political explanation and clarification because they are familiar with the history. Like, fuck you. Now, in the next scene, we see how the girls in Verina's family try to persuade the dad to take in the new boy as his daughter's husband. Now that I'm watching these scenes again, the purpose is a little too obvious for me, because I know more of the history and context now, and I mean the moment where Varinus refers to his daughter as my property. Yeah, the ancient perception of women is shocking nowadays. Well, not to me particularly, but it is a nice cultural touch. And I can't say it's annoying to me, it's just obvious for me at this point. I get the message, and I guess I notice it because I've seen this scene quite a lot of times by now, and it makes me nitpick. Then a comedic moment where the boy describes his family's cattle crap built house as, quote, very hygienic because there is no smell. Again, the cultural thing where it's supposed to be funny by our standards. Yeah, nice touch. Then we see the hint of domestic violence between Varinus and Ilaria, while Pullo is just watching, once again showing his supposedly brute character with the biggest heart, actually. Then we get to the Senate, where the motion of Caesar's ultimatum is proposed, and Cicero stands with Pompey. Now, I love the reality of this scene once again. We see them fighting like the biggest losers ever, thus shitting on the idolized vision people usually have about the great Roman Senate and politics. And not just that, this is even politics nowadays. Behind every shiny person with a great reputation and education and influence, there could be hiding a complete motherfucking idiot. And this statement is further confirmed with the next scene and the raspy voice guy, but he gets a pass because he's old. It's also a nice exchange where we witness the old Roman perception of unity of religion and politics. Then the trio of the Brute, the Big Heart, and Ilaria Sand meet in a scene where emotions are finally laid out, by accident, of course. Varinus hears Ilaria is unhappy, and he does reassure her that he has deep affection for her. So clumsily said, which makes it all the more cute, because it's It shows that Varenus is really trying to change. Now we get back to my favorite place in the show, Attia's house, where Octavia doesn't want to socialize, and her mommy gets on her case. So to shut her up, Octavia brings up the most awkward conversation ever, at least by our standards, I suppose, about her mother's wailing during sex with Anthony. We get a totally hurtful impression of Atia during sex by her own daughter, and it's just so uncomfortably hilarious, and I fucking love it. And then we basically see the Republic fall just because Pullo met a troll from a bar fight. Yeah, it is pretty stupid and accidental, and what I love about this scene and about the episode as a whole is that politics and history are shown as they most probably were, a complex mix of ridiculous coincidences with everyone thinking it was some grand scheme or whatever. We have Caesar thinking Pompey provoked him for real, while actually he wanted nothing of the sort, but it all fucked up and we got an empire. Pompey's scream is hilarious, by the way. And of course, one of our lead characters is stabbed for suspense, but we know he's not gonna die. Then Caesar is finally declared an enemy of the state, and our news presenter gives one of my favorite Roman quotes: all citizens must do him harm if they are able. It's so deliciously weird and fucked up to legally oblige civilians to kill someone. Caesar then assembles the troops, and he says to them, a tribune of the plebs assaulted on the Senate steps. Can you imagine a more terrible sacrilege? Well, how about a dictator killed on the Senate steps? I just love the historical irony. Then Pullo's reaction when he gets summoned is hilarious. Like, the fuck, me? And then Caesar throws the dice and crosses the Rubicon in this absolutely iconic moment. Once again, realistically flavored with a little boy just standing there by the river, watching the legions cross, not giving a fuck or knowing anything about who rules or whatever the fuck a republic or an empire means. Varenus wakes up and gets on Pullo's case about bringing down the republic. Leave the man alone. I mean, for fuck's sake, if it weren't for him, I never would have been able to have such a huge idol and role model in life as Augustus. And we finish the episode with sounding the alarm that Caesar is invading. I like seeing how the news is spreading around the city without social media and shit. Just a random guy found out running and screaming throughout the city. And of course, the big reveal, Ilaria is the mother of the baby. I gotta be honest with myself, how big of a reveal was that? I even remember the first time I saw it, my reaction was like, wait, this is a revelation? Didn't we know she was lying already? All the same, it was done dramatically and on the brink of war, which makes me love the moment. So I finally finished reviewing the second episode after a year and a fucking half, and I could wrap it up as a great episode, even more so than before, as I'm witnessing the downfall of Game of Thrones and all of the ridiculous bullshit that was season 7. I'm watching Rome again, and I'm seeing its beauty, its logic and complexity, and overall quality. It stands out more and more to me in comparison. That was Chris from Holy Retardation, and I'll see you guys in episode 3 on Owl in a Thorn Bush.